everybody.
Good day.
Hello, very small crowd this afternoon. How's everyone doing today? Not too warm, I hope. It is a warm day here in the centre. Welcome to the Alice Springs Desert Park and here to the Nature Theatre. What we're going to do is introduce a few of the local birds you might see throughout Central Australia. Give you a few tips on how to identify them. That bit can be rather tricky. And also show off a few natural behaviours, how they can survive out here in what can be a pretty harsh place to live, especially this time of year where it's so warm. So my name's James, and it is my job to introduce these birds. For many Aussies though, the first one doesn't need a lot of introduction at all. This is an Australian magpie, very well known for swooping and dive-bombing people during the breeding season. They're very family orientated. This is why they swoop people. They see us as a threat. They don't just swoop people, cats, dogs, other magpies as well. Anything to protect their families. If you do get swooped by a magpie, don't take it too personally at all. Makes him a good bird for us to demonstrate that this whole show, not just the magpie, but the whole show will be a free flight show. All of our birds will be flying around up close to the shelter, above your heads. So we just ask that you remain seated through the show, but there's only a few of you, so that shouldn't be a problem at all. Isn't that right, buddy? So we don't actually get that swooping behaviour here in the centre of Australia. It generally happens around the coastal regions, simply because we don't have the population size or the urbanisation that the other areas around the country do, so magpies haven't seen people as a threat yet. Isn't that right, buddy? Yes, off you go. See you later. So you can watch magpies doing their thing in relative comfort. But out here in the desert, they've also done really well to survive the hot climate that we have. So even in summer, they're out and about during the day doing their thing. A lot of animals out here have had to choose a bit more of a nocturnal lifestyle. So to get out of the sun and away from the heat, it's a lot easier to come out during the night time. And when most people think of nocturnal birds, it's generally members of the owl family. And I think this one is probably the most familiar out of all the owls. So this is a barn owl, one of 2 owls we get here in the centre. One of 9 across the whole country, only 2 here in the middle. And they're very easily recognisable. You can find barn owls in every continent around the world, except for Antarctica. And all owls have a few adaptations that give them a bit of a helping hand when hunting during the night time. So one very important adaptation is silent flight. So you can't hear owls flying through the air. As the magpie flew over, you would have heard a bit of a wing beat. With an owl, if they made noise during the night time, the small animals that they're hunting will hear her approaching, dart away into a burrow, and the bird would go hungry. So silent flight means they can sneak right up to their prey without making a noise. See? And stay completely undetected. Very nice. But on top of that, they're listening for their prey as well. So if they made too much noise, they wouldn't be able to hear a thing at all either. And it's all to do with the feather structure. The feathers are really soft and frayed along the edges. You've still got some food there, you have to finish that first. Frayed along the edges, and it's kind of like a fine-tooth comb. Breaks up turbulence. Air flows through them instead of around. Breaks up turbulence and makes the owl's flight completely inaudible. To find barn owls, you have to generally be out in the very darkest nights, because they do love hunting in pitch black darkness, and they love hanging around wherever you find tree hollows. So desert river areas, even woodland areas, have lots of really good tree hollows in them. Because they're that ghostly white colour, they've got nowhere to use camouflage. They have to completely hide themselves away. But for many other animals out here, that little guy that's just joined us over there, camouflage is really important. So this is the other owl we get here in Central Australia. It's called a southern boobook owl. It also gets called a mopoke as well, depending on where you are in the country. And they're Australia's smallest owl, but they're also Australia's most widespread. They're found absolutely everywhere around the country. And they've got the same features that all owls have. They've got that same silent flight. As you imagine with owls, great eyesight's important as well. For an owl, their eyes are so large in their head that they don't actually have any eye muscles. There's no room in their skull for muscles. So we can move our own eyes left and right, up and down. Theirs are completely fixed into position. They have to move their whole head just to see something out of the corner of their eye. That's why you'll see owls looking around everywhere. But even though their eyesight's really good, they actually use their hearing to detect their prey. So in a pitch black night, you won't see a thing at all, doesn't matter how good your eyes are. So they have incredibly good hearing. Their ears are lopsided, so one sits just a little bit higher than the other. This means they can pinpoint exactly where their prey is without seeing it at all. Isn't that right, buddy? Speaking of hearing things, he's been making these soft little calls. These are just little contact calls. You're not likely to hear that sound at all out in the wild. What you are likely to hear is their territorial call. It's two-noted and it sounds like they're saying their name. It sounds like boobuk or mopok, high pitch, low pitch. Quite often you'll hear two of them duetting with each other. Off he goes. And that's probably the easiest way to find a boobuk owl. You're definitely going to hear them well and truly before you see them. And out and about during the night time, that's generally the case with most of the animals. You're definitely going to hear many of them well before you see them. And there's one particular bird out here that is very well known for the sounds that it makes, by the calls that it does. And you'll always hear them before you see them. Has anyone ever heard of a bush stone curlew? Got one coming out here right now. These little guys make a high-pitched wailing call during the night time, and because their camouflage, as you can see, is so good, they're really, really hard to spot. So that boobuk didn't use a tree hollow, he used his camouflage to stay safe. So does curlews. If they feel threatened or worried, what they do is stop, freeze, and just pretend to be a stone. You're going to find that, there we go. Pretend to be a stone or a statue. It works very well for many different native predators. Mainly eagles, kites and falcons. These diurnal birds of prey are really good at using their eyesight when they're hunting. And so because eyesight generally requires a bit of movement in order to work, what then would happen is if he sees something from above, he'll freeze, and whatever's trying to get him can't see him anymore. Then along came European settlements and introduced predators, like cats and foxes. Where are you going, buddy? Right there. Not that way. Unless you found something from this morning show. Like cats and foxes. And these animals, even though they're great at using their eyesight, they're really good at using their sense of smell and their hearing as well. So if he saw a cat or a fox looking at stalking him, he's not going to run away. He's going to freeze. As you'd imagine, that's the easiest meal that cats had all day. So their numbers have taken a bit of a hit since the arrival of European settlement and those introduced predators. Not just curlews though, many animals out here have taken a bit of a battering as well. Isn't that right, buddy? So to identify a bush stone curlew, obviously if you see a bird with lovely long legs like this, and that mottled brown colouring as well, it's a bush stone curlew, but you're more likely to hear this thing well and truly before you see it. It's definitely that high-pitched wailing sound. Sounds like, quite often, sounds like someone screaming in the night time. It's been responsible for a few false alarm 000 calls as well. What are you doing, buddy? Come out here. Ready to come out here? No? It's like, no, but it's shady there. So it sounds like someone wailing in the night time. They're quite commonly found pretty much Alice Springs north, especially around the northern areas. Their numbers are a lot better. They're considered locally extinct in many southern areas. So if you do want to see them in high number, definitely head up north a fair way. That's it, buddy. Just about got it. There it is. Right, you can head off home when you're ready now. You'll see that he'll have a bit of a stop-start kind of walking motion as he heads off. That's because he's a bit more exposed out here. So if there's anything in the air, if he's stopping and starting, he can drop very, very quickly. That's it, nice and steady. You're getting there. It is a bit of a warm day as well. And who knows, there might be something up on the ranges there. His eyesight's definitely a lot better than ours, especially when it comes to spotting anything flying on above him. And he's decided to freeze. We used to have quite a fair few of these birds around the desert park, and we had a pair that was nesting right on the path, and it was amazing how many people just walked straight past without even seeing that they were there. Their camouflage works that well. As far as the animal kingdom goes, we've got pretty good eyesight, people do. So camouflage rarely works on us. With theirs, it most definitely works on us. So I was mentioning the predators that he's worried about. Diurnal birds of prey, eagles, kites and falcons. There's definitely no shortage of those out here in Central Australia. So we get a few different kite species that I'd almost guarantee you've seen already. One of them's just coming in, of course coming in from my left. He's decided to loop around. He'll be in soon. One is a whistling kite. Whenever you're trying to identify large, broad-winged birds of prey, like this guy coming on through here, when you see big, broad wings, always use your tail shapes. Tail shapes are the best way to identify them, because they're all pretty different. So to know you've spotted a whistling kite, you look at a nice, round, paddle shape to its tail. So these birds are well known for plucking food straight off the ground like that, or just landing sometimes. So this method of snatch and grab saves them lots of energy. They don't need to land and then take off again. That's when they use most of their energy. But they're also quite vulnerable when they're sitting low to the ground like this. And see, he doesn't really look that comfortable on the ground as he trots along. He gets access to large lizards, bits of roadkill, anything like that. But also they can use it to go fishing. They're found right across the country, top-end river systems, coastal areas. There are lots of great places to go fishing. Oh, you missed it, turn around. Central Australia also has a few decent places, in the form of permanent waterholes. These waterholes do have fish species in them, and that's commonly where you see these whistling kites hanging around. Okay, you decided to go that way again. Is those permanent waterholes. Places like Ellery Creek, Glen Helen Gorge, even Ormiston Gorge, have whistling kites hanging around, all trying to get themselves some dinner. This time of year, those permanent water sources are a great place to go swimming as well. So there's no crocs or jellyfish here in Central Australia, so our water's pretty safe to swim in. And if you're lucky, you'll see those whistling kites hanging around, searching for their food. But remember to identify them. Look at that tail shape, that round, slightly paddled shape to their tail. You can see why it was paddled. If he misses on the first swoop, really easily turn on a dime and come back through. So those whistling kites you'll find out in the outskirts of town and out in the bush. This kite that's just joined us, you're more likely to find around the centre of town. So this is a black kite. They look fairly similar to whistling kites apart from their tail shape. They also get called forked tail kites because their tail's pulled into a fork or a V shape, two sides back up to one point. Very common around the townships of Alice, so places like rubbish tips, over at the telegraph station in an afternoon. If any of the ovals have been freshly mowed, black kites love hanging out there. That's because they're scavengers. Always have, and they've learnt very much that people mean a great source of food. But you can also find these birds out at fire fronts. Might be a strange place to find a black kite, but out at a fire front there's a huge smorgasbord of invertebrates fleeing the flames. And they'll all gather at these fire fronts searching for those bugs. Oh, that got stuck to my hand, sorry. You won't be happy about that. All trying to get a hold of those invertebrates. And then they quickly do something called feeding on the wing. Pass the food straight from their feet up into their beak. It's a very quick behaviour, but it's very, very important, especially if you're a black kite. It saves a lot of energy. They don't have to land in order to eat their food. If they did, they might have to travel a long way that isn't on fire, simply to eat a small bug. Big waste of energy. But also, at any food source, these birds will gather in huge numbers. Tens, hundreds, possibly even thousands. Competition is a big issue when that starts to happen. Feeding on the wing means you actually get to keep the food you work so hard to catch. You're going to fly? Not that way. This way. I think everyone's feeling the heat a bit this afternoon. It's a rather warm afternoon, a little bit sunny as well. It'd be nice if those clouds came back over. That's what happens when you come back again. So feeding on the wing, even though it's really, really simple, it means these birds can be highly successful. And they don't have to hunt for a lot either. Just a few bugs a day can keep them going. Come on. No? Alright. If you don't fly when I do that, you don't get food. As simple as that. They're not just found here in Central Australia, or Australia for that matter. They're found right across the country. They're found throughout Southeast Asia, into India, into Africa, and also into parts of Europe as well. So they are an incredibly successful species of bird. One thing that stays the same no matter where you find them is that tail shape. Two sides, back up to one point. Looks like someone's gotten a triangle and cut a bit of gotten a pair of scissors, sorry, and cut a bit of a triangle out of it. It's waiting for it to land. No, she's disappeared. Well, anyway, that's pretty much it from me this afternoon. I hope you have enjoyed seeing some of our birds, showing off some of their natural behaviour. I hope you've learnt a thing or two about how they can survive out here in what can be a pretty harsh place to live. And also a few tips of how you also identify them as well. That's probably the trickiest bit for everyone. So I hope everyone had enjoyed the show. If you've got any questions, I think I'll be in the shade. Ask away and enjoy the rest of your day here at the park. Thanks very much for coming along.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.